Thank you for watching and subscribe my channel.
Good afternoon. I wonder if you could expand upon something you said earlier. I had a question about my grandson. One of my grandsons is 13, and he's a bit of, he goes in a different direction. And you were saying that rather than seeing him as he is now, to look toward where your inner being sees him.
We said something almost like that, but just a little bit different. And we are so happy that you've asked this question. We are suggesting that in the same way that you accept that there's the physical you and there's the inner being you, and that the best of all worlds is when you are really in sync. In other words, when you are allowing yourself, because resistance is slight or non-existent, to be fully integrated with your own inner being, then you feel good, you're extra wise, you've got really good balance, you're in the right place at the right time, you have really good timing, you're in love with life. And so what we're suggesting is that you recognize in every other, especially this 13-year-old, that like you, that he also has a physical human side which might be disconnected or pinched off from who he really is, but that he has an inner being part too, and that everything that he's been living is causing the expansion of this inner being part. So what we are encouraging you to do is to deliberately try to have a relationship with the inner being part of him even more than you do with the physical part of him.
That's the part I'm not quite understanding.
We know it's tricky. It's tricky. You said he goes a different way. Talk to us just slightly, softly if you want to, on what way he goes that...
Well, he failed every class last semester, and he only cares about games.
We're going to talk from your inner being point of view and from his, but we're just going to give you a slightly different perspective of him. He succeeds at what interests him, and he makes no pretenses about what doesn't.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So don't you feel a little warmer about his inner being than you did? Now we can tell you the story in another way. When I look at his failure of all of his classes, my choosing to look at that causes me to move away from my inner being who is not looking at that. And I think it's his failure when really it's mine.
Meaning that I should not look at the failure?
Meaning that when you do, you don't feel good, so why are you?
So what would I be looking at? I mean, he's a great kid. Is that what you're talking about?
These are really good questions. Let's keep talking until it clicks into place, because a whole lot of people in this room are wondering the same thing.
So this is what happens, and what I do, which is why I'm probably tighter with him than any of my grandchildren, is that I do see him. I've heard you say this before, and I try to do that. Focus on, he is a great guy. He is a great guy, and he's a very smart and a loving guy. And he told me that since we worked together through summer school and he passed everything in summer school, he said, why don't I just do what I want for the 10 months and you and I will work together for the 1 month and I'll just go to summer school. So I try to focus on that cleverness and that humor, but I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure he's not serious though.
He is serious. Let's introduce into this conversation the subject of path of least resistance. Path of least resistance, by that we mean the path of most allowance, and by that we mean the path of most connection to who you really are, the path leading to who you really are rather than away from who you really are. We have a question for you. Is your experience with him, is he more often feeling good or not feeling good?
Oh, feeling good.
So from what you know of what we talk about here, what do you think we think that means?
I know what you think, but it's just that society and the teachers at school don't.
So what do you think we think that means?
I mean, he's following his path, I guess, his inner being. He's following.
And so does that make him leading edge?
Yes.
Do you think he could ever go back?
I doubt it.
If he's feeling good, do you think that that means that his inner being is calling him?
I think so.
Would you rather he followed a teacher that doesn't know or an inner being that does?
You're right. Inner being.
Do you think that he has the potential of following his inner being and then his teacher following him and his inner being?
I do think so.
Do you think he has the potential or the ability to win over his teacher? He's won you over.
Yeah, sure. I do think so. I do think so. It's just in the meantime.
In the meantime.
I say in the meantime when I have to go see the principal and these people, and I guess I'm being distracted by them, that you're saying that I should just focus on the fact that he's happily going in the direction of his inner being. I'm pretty happy with that, and that these other people, I guess, will fall in line.
Well, we liked your opening words to us. You said he goes a different way, or he goes his own way. You didn't want to offer any criticism. You were just pointing out that he approaches life in a sort of different way. And we want to say to you that when you look into your current population and you find those who stand out, rarely have they followed the norm.
True.
But the norm clamors to condemn them. Why do you think that is?
Why do they condemn them?
Yeah.
I guess because they're different. They don't follow the society.
And so why do you think the norm needs to control this unique 13-year-old of yours? Why would anyone need to control him?
Well, I guess he shows them a different, something higher.
Yeah. He's happy. They want to be. He's confident. They want to be. They're not confident. They're afraid. And so many parents are afraid. They're afraid to turn loose of the guidance of their child. They want the safety of what is rather than the thrill and the adventure of what really is. You see, if you said to us, I have a 13-year-old grandson and he is miserable, we'd be having a whole different conversation. We'd be encouraging you to encourage him to hook up with who he is. But he's already hooked up with who he is, and he's already romping in the direction of magnificent things. And what you're worried about are the masses who don't get that. And we say, his inner being isn't looking back at the masses, and he's not looking back at the masses, and we're not looking back at them, and we don't think it's a very good idea for you to do it either. If you need everybody to agree with your approach to life, then you're always going to be standing in a place of bewilderment, because there's so many different ways of approaching life experience. But if you just break it down to the simple understanding about your own guidance system, the thing that we enjoy so much in watching relationships with people like you, with people like your grandson, is that what you get to demonstrate to each other is alignment. And you don't have anything else to give anyone. If you are not in alignment with who you are, you have nothing to give except rules and regulations and requirements and mediocrity and boredom and defensiveness and rationalization. That's no way to live. And isn't it remarkable? How do you think this kid got that way in a society that is pushing so hard the other way? How do you think that happened?
I guess he just doesn't adhere to what they think. He follows the inner guidance.
So he was born knowing, and no one talked him out of it.
I sure never tried to, but I like this confirmation that we're going in the right direction.
We liked that you didn't try to talk him out of it either. In other words, the whole conversation and all the hours that we were together with all of you, it's all about you have guidance within you that is calling you, calling you, calling you. Unless you have beliefs that are blocking your ability to hear, you'll always know which way to go, you see. It's so much fun. If you could look into his vortex, if you could look down the road like we are and see the magnificence of the life that this kid has laid out before him, and the absence of obstacles because he knows his own way, and because he didn't have the disadvantage of being talked out of his own guidance, he's following it right along the way, you see. Most people have to get beat up pretty good. Most people have to feel a lot of negative emotion before they give up on things that are not working. Isn't it nice to know someone who didn't have to give up on what didn't work? He just always got to do what does.
Which is probably why I feel closest to him.
Yeah. And he to you. You are the catalyst for him.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that.
So I have some understanding, maybe I'm putting it very simply, that I know either you're in the vortex or out of the vortex. That's whole, like most of it is. Either you're emotionally in a good place or a bad place. You are in middle sometimes. But my question to you is, how do you introduce Abraham? Like, how does somebody introduce Abraham? The reason I ask is, this morning and even earlier, there was a group of people who saw all these crazy bunch of people around wearing these tags. They're like, what are these guys here for? And what are they doing? And then one of the lady asked me, what does this tag say? What is this for? I said, we are here for an Abraham event. And she's like, okay, as if I know. And like, okay. I almost wanted to tell her that we are here to celebrate life, but then I don't know if she would get it. Then I told her that we are here to attend an event which is motivational. Like, I put some words, but I was like, I'll ask this to Abraham. How do I introduce Abraham to others? Like, I don't know. Like, that's my question.
When you are, as you said, in the vortex, when you are in alignment with who you are, and someone asks you, then you can trust that your alignment will cause you to offer the words that will be most comfortably received by them. It's not about conveying all that you have come to know, because there's not time in the elevator for that. It's about demonstrating through your alignment that whatever it is working well for you, and that your anticipation is that their life will go well too. Some words that are easy to offer is, well, we're just remembering that life is supposed to be fun, and we're just reminding ourselves that we're living happily ever after. And then you might say, if you sense it and if you mean it, don't ever say something that you don't mean. But if you sense it and you mean it, you might say to them, and I see that you are doing the same. Because the fact that they're right there rendezvousing with you means something like that, you see. Life is giving them this understanding, as is your life giving you this understanding. There's a tendency, and it's the reason that you find us responding the way we do when any of you are wanting to give Abraham or Esther the credit for your conscious awareness of your own expansion, because it's your rendezvousing. You're the one who put us in your vortex, and you're the one that followed the trail to these conversations, and it will always be that way. This isn't the ending of the trail for anyone. This is just the dynamic trail that you are currently upon, and it's the vibrational essence of who you are, but your inner being will always be out there ahead of you, calling you to the right now in this moment closing of that gap between who you are and who you are. And it's the same for all of them, whether they're in this forum with all of us or whether they're at the Lido having cake.
Yeah, and it is so funny because even this morning, there was a lineup. I don't know, you might know it. Like, there was a lineup like, I don't know, 10 o'clock in the morning, people were already lined up, and there were two girls who were like so excited because it's in the Eclipse Theater. They were like, we want to be part of this. And they went, and the reason I know that because they were discussing it out loud, and I was just there, and they were like, you know what, I went to the front desk and they tell me this is for some event, and I don't understand why these people are lined up so early in the morning. And like, I obviously wanted to tell her, because it is fun.
Yeah. Well, what you discover as you move through life is that you have within you the ability to offer a unique answer to everyone who approaches you, and that the timing of them coming to you is all about what you have pre-paved in terms of your alignment with your inner being. And the more tuned in, tapped in, turned on you are, as you are, then the more of them who are ready for you will just show up. Nice, isn't it? And if they're not ready, don't chase them down the hallway.
I won't. Thank you.
Really good. Really good. Really good.